Hello and welcome back to a new video. Today we will learn how we can migrate and set up the template AEC Interactive on your project or a new project. Now, when it comes to this, there are two scenarios you can take. You can either create a new project or use your own project. I'm going to click on create, set a location and all, or the second scenario is simply you can import your own project to the AEC Interactive version 1 template. I believe both approaches are fine. The first approach, where we are going to create our own project from scratch or use your own project, will require slightly some setup, but the setup is extremely easy to do. So once you create your project, the project we created is empty. It does not have our template. So to bring our template, you can do it in two ways. The first way is simply copy, paste the folder AEC Interactive. So here, the folder AEC Interactive, you can right click, show an explorer, then go back to the content folder, select this folder, click on copy, and you can paste that folder in the content folder of your Unreal Engine project. So that's the first scenario. The second one is the exact same, but instead of manually copy and paste, you can right click the AEC Interactive and you can click on Migrate. So here, click on Migrate. This will also copy test files I have, but when you download this project, you will have everything inside one folder, which is the AEC Interactive. Okay, so I'm going to click on OK. And I'm going to locate my project. So I already copy the destination. You must, it's very important to select the content folder of your project and click on select folder. So you should not select the folder of the root or any of these folders. It must be the content folder. Okay. So select this content folder, then click on select folder and give it little time and it will copy all the elements we need, the template, to your own Unreal Engine project. So this is finished. It took slightly more than 10 seconds. Now, let's open our new project. So the new project, I made it in Unreal Engine 5.6. And the development version, the main version I'm using or developing the template with is Unreal Engine 5.4 for stability reasons. However, our new project here is in Unreal Engine 5.6, as you can see from the user interface here, and to show you that it works on higher versions of Unreal Engine. So I'm going to press Ctrl Space and I'm going to load our level, the gallery level. So I'm going to click on the folder, VRDAC Interactive, click on Maps and click on the gallery. This will take perhaps few seconds to few minutes, it depends, but I think it will take slightly more than few seconds because it may need to compile some shaders, and when we open a new project in a new Unreal Engine version for the first time, it takes some time. Now, just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to show you what happens if we don't set the game instance to AEC Interactive. So that's something extremely important. You remember earlier I said you can either import your project into the project that you downloaded, or you can migrate the project to your own project. So if you migrate from my template to your project, there is something you need to do, which is under the project settings. You can open that from edit, project settings, okay? And here you want to search for game instance. So type in the search bar here, game instance, and under project, maps and modes, which is here, you will see game instance. So if you go to maps and modes, we can find game instance somewhere here, game instance class, it's set now to game instance. If you click here, you will find GI, stands for game instance AEC. Now, this is what you need to select, but for now, I'm not going to select it, just to show you some of the errors we might encounter, just in case if you forget to do it. So the first thing we've noticed is that we spawn in the center of the world and we get an error. That's something to keep in mind. So let's just also make sure in the world settings we have our game mode. Yes, we do. And let's set the game instance to the GI game instance AEC. Now I'm going to click on play. And as you can see, we spawned correctly where we should be. So if you don't set the game instance, the project won't even start. Now, let's say you are working on your own project. So let's open our main level here again. and we set the game instance. Okay, this is very important. Now, when you click on play, technically nothing is going to happen because right now in the game mode, that's the second setup we need to do. We need to set this from none to our game mode AEC. Okay, so I'm going to click and I'm going to select game mode AEC and I'm going to click on play. We get some warning messages in yellow, and that's by design, that we have some specific actors that does not exist. And in this scenario, the specific actors are our 4 actors. So now we don't have the ability to move. So what's very important then is to bring our pawn. So I'm going now to show you the folder structure we have. VRD AEC Interactive, we have assets. Inside this basically are assets between a sequence, the meshes, the sound effects, the fonts. We have blueprints, and this is where you need to get most of the actors you need to use. And under blueprints, we have external assets. So these are the mannequins or the display panels and whatnot. So this is technically nothing for you in here. We have maps, our 3 maps that we discussed in the past. We discussed these 2. This we will see in future lessons. And we also have the materials of the project. So we have some prototyping grids that I made with the texture graph in Unreal Engine. And we have some outline material. This is for outlining objects. We have some master materials and some material instances. Now, I'm going to go to blueprints and let's go to the core. Under the core folder, we have pawns, and here we have our 4 pawns. Let's click on the first person view, click and add this here to your level. And if you click on play, you're gonna get now 3 warnings instead of 4. And since we put this on the floor, I think we need to make sure that we have collision on the floor. I'm not sure, but let's move this slightly to the top to see. And yeah, there is no collision on the floor. That's funny. Let's select the floor then. So this is the terrain floor. Let's press Ctrl E to go to the static mesh edit mode. So under collision here, we have collision complexity. We need to set this from default to use complex collision as simple. This will allow us to use our mesh as collision by itself. Okay. Now we can see that we have a collision. So if you press Alt C on your keyboard, you can see the collision of your mesh. Now, this is very important. Based on the location of your pawn, you are going to start, and that's also by design. The option here, player start or camera location, they both do not work. What works is the location of the pawn. So if you want to start your level from here, let's say, then you want to bring your pawn and you want to paste it here. Okay, so right click and let's go to edit and click on paste here. So I need to set a shortcut for that on Unreal Engine 5.6, but that's okay. So now, based on this location and based on this view, so this is the pawn that will allow us to start the game. Click on play and we start from here. Okay, keep that in mind. That's very important. Now, I'm going to set this in an exterior place for now. I'm going to rotate this to here and I'm going to click on play again. And now, since we get 3 warnings in yellow, so these are not game breaking warnings or experience breaking. If you press on T, click on view modes, we only have 1 view mode. Of course, the template is not intended for using with 1 view mode. However, if we're going to do that, maybe in the future I'm going to remove the button view modes unless we have more than 1 pawn. So what you need to do in this scenario is to bring the pawns. So you need to bring the drone. You can set the location of the drone in a place that you like to start from. So let's say I'd like to start the drone view from here. Okay, you can bring your third person character and you can set it in a different location. So let's say we want to start the third person character from here. This is maybe not a bad place. Let's also press Alt C to remove the collisions. Let's say when I switch to the third person character, we see this view. And let's say for the top down view, we want to orbit around this specific building. And when I bring my top down camera, we have some options in the details panel. That's actually for most of the actors. If not now, also in future updates, I'm going to add more settings for customizability. But for now, the most important settings are on the top down actor. And here we can set the default zoom. So let's say if this is too close, we can set it slightly further, or you can get it closer depending on what you want. So let's say the default spring arm length or the zoom is to 4,000 units. The closest we can get, let's say it's 3,000 units, and we can get the distance, let's say, to 12,000 units. Okay. Now, when I click on play, we spawn in the location of our first person character, and I'm going to press on T and I'm going to click on view modes. Now we have our view modes. We have the third person, we have the drone, and we have the top down. All right. All right. So I'm going to press T again, and now we have the ability to move around and to switch between our pawns. So that's how you set up the basics of the template on your project. To recap, step number 1 is to set the game instance to game instance AEC, and this file is located here. So if you press Ctrl space, it will be, let's press Ctrl space, it will be located under blueprints, core, under game mode. We have our game mode, and we have our game instance and the player controllers. So once you set the game instance, you want to set from the world settings the game mode. You can go to window, and here under window you can see the world settings here. Click and that will show us the world settings. In the world settings you want to go to the game mode, is the very first option. Click here. By default it might be set to none, so you need to set this to game mode AEC, and once you do that you can locate the game mode if you want, like this. Then go to the core blueprints, go to pawns, and place at least 2 pawns in your level. You need the first person pawn, and any of the other pawns can work, no problem. Or you can place 4 of them. In some scenarios, you may not want to have the third person or the meta-human in your project. You simply want the first person and the top down in your project, and these two are essential. And the top down is very, very important for the unit search, the amenities, the surroundings. So you may need at least to have these two, and the drone can be extra. So now click on play, and as you can see we have now 3 buttons. The button for the third person character is gone. So that's something to keep in mind. Of course, if you have any feedback, any comments, anything that would make your life easier in working with a template, let me know. Now, before we wrap up, there is just something that I'd like to keep in mind for you. Whenever you add any actors of the AEC Interactive, it's preferable to add like a folder like this that can start with exclamation mark like so it can always be on top. Now, since we've added these, you can click and drag like so, or you can create a folder, right click, make that your current folder, and then you can add the actors that you want to add and place them around your project. Alright then, as always, stay hydrated. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions, feedback, any ideas, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.